On a snowy night in London, Alex Parker dragged his tired feet as he opened the door to his apartment. After finishing his third part-time job, he returned home to be greeted, as usual, by a cold room and the sound of his mother and brother laughing in the kitchen. "Oh, Alex, you're back," his mother, Sarah, said without turning around. Her voice lacked any warmth of welcome. At the table sat his brother Michael, who had opened his college laptop. Unlike Alex, he possessed a bright, radiant handsomeness. "Good work today," Michael said, but his eyes never left the screen. Alex took off his coat and quietly approached the small kitchen table. This tiny apartment had been home to the three of them since he was 16. Since his father died of cancer, their lives had completely changed. After her husband's death, Sarah drowned herself in alcohol, and although she occasionally worked part-time jobs, it was far from enough to support the household. "Michael, how was the mock trial in law school?" Alex asked his brother. "It was wonderful. The professor praised my argument, said it was the best in the class." Michael looked up for the first time, showing a beaming smile. "And I got accepted for the internship, too." "Congratulations." Alex congratulated him sincerely. Sarah embraced her son's shoulder and proudly said, "My son is truly exceptional. Michael will definitely become a first-class lawyer. Your father must be so pleased in heaven." Alex smiled, but his eyes looked a little sad. When his father was alive, he too had talked about his dreams for the future, going to college, studying business, and someday having his own company. But with his father's death, those dreams had slipped away. He dropped out of high school in his sophomore year. The family needed income. Sarah didn't particularly object to her son quitting school. "Alex isn't suited for studying," she often said. In reality, Alex had been an excellent student, but his mother didn't see that. For 16 years, Alex had worked various jobs simultaneously. Waiter, cleaner, convenience store clerk, he did everything. Most of his wages went to the household, covering Sarah's medical expenses and, above all, Michael's education costs. "Look at this, Alex," Michael said in an excited voice. "I'm going to Miami with friends during spring break. It's to celebrate getting the law firm internship." Alex took several bills out of his wallet and placed them on the table. "Is this enough?" "Thank you," Michael said happily, but there were no further words of gratitude, as if money from his brother was simply expected. After leaving the kitchen, Alex entered his small room. He took a box from under the bed and started up his laptop. At night, after the family had gone to bed, this was his secret time. Alex had been teaching himself business. He took online courses, learned web design, and mastered the basics of marketing. And 2 years ago, he had launched a small online shop, a site selling handmade accessories. At first, it was just a few sales a month, but gradually the orders began to increase. He skillfully utilized social media and developed his own brand image. He never told his family. He didn't think his mother and brother would take what they called his silly hobby seriously. 6 months ago, Alex's business took a big leap forward. His designs were featured by a famous fashion blogger, and orders flooded in. The profits far exceeded his expectations, and last month he had moved out without telling his family. Not that they seemed to care. To his mother and Michael, Alex was just the failure. Son, a high school dropout, wasting his life without success. Contact was kept to a minimum. The phone rang. It was from Michael. "Alex, big news." His brother's voice trembled with excitement. "Emily proposed to me. She's the daughter of the Reynolds family. The wedding is in 3 months. You'll come, of course." Alex offered sincere congratulations. He could also hear Sarah shouting from the phone, My son is marrying into a prestigious family." Michael continued to talk about the wedding details: a luxurious hotel, hundreds of guests, an expensive suit. "Alex, make sure you wear something decent to the ceremony," Michael said. "Don't look embarrassing." After hanging up the phone, Alex stood by the window, gazing at the night view. The view from his office was magnificent. An upper floor of a skyscraper had become his new headquarters. On his desk lay his business card as the founder of Elite Innovation. His family knew nothing about his success. And for now, Alex had no intention of revealing it. He simply planned to attend his brother's wedding and quietly celebrate. On the day of Michael's wedding, Alex stepped into the elevator at the hotel with a gentle smile. He was a bit surprised at his own reflection in the mirror. The simple yet elegant silver gray suit accentuated his refined appearance. The subtle embroidery on the lapels was his own design. As he entered the grand ballroom where the ceremony would take place, he was enveloped by the luxurious decorations and the scent of flowers. The white and silver theme resembled a winter fairy tale. "Alex, you came." Turning around, there stood Sarah. His mother was dressed in a flashy red dress, with glittering jewels adorning her neck and wrists. "Of course, Mother. It's Michael's special day." Alex smiled kindly. Sarah looked Alex up and down and said, "Well, you look surprisingly presentable." That was her highest compliment to her son. "Have you greeted the Reynolds family?" Sarah asked. "Not yet." "Hurry and go. It's important to make a good impression on them. Behave in a way that won't embarrass Michael as his brother." Alex nodded quietly. He walked around the venue, greeting some familiar faces: old high school friends, former neighbors, and relatives from his mother's side. When asked about his current life, he would vaguely answer, "I've started a small business." After the luxurious lunch, it was time for the reception. The bride, Emily, was a tall, imposing woman whose eyes were filled with love as she gazed at Michael. Michael, dressed in a pure white suit, looked the perfect groom he had always wanted to be. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the toast," the MC announced. "First, let's hear a few words from the groom's mother, Mrs. Sarah Parker." As the venue fell silent, Sarah walked to the stage with confident steps and took the microphone. She wore a beaming smile. "Thank you all for gathering here today for my son Michael's wedding," Sarah said. "I am truly a happy mother. To have such a wonderful son and to see him being welcomed into such a wonderful family today." Sarah paused once and looked around the venue. When her eyes stopped on Alex, her expression changed slightly. "Let me tell you all a little secret." She changed her tone of voice, continuing as if telling a joke. "Actually, the groom Michael is my only real son." A few laughs spread through the venue. Sarah, gaining confidence from this reaction, raised her voice even more. "Some of you may know my other son, Alex. Where is he?" "Ah, there he is." Sarah pointed at Alex. Suddenly, the venue's lights turned toward Alex, making him stiffen involuntarily. "He is my other son, but honestly, he's a failure," Sarah said with a laugh. "Divorced, no children, high school dropout. He has nothing going for him. Very different from Michael, isn't he?" The venue was filled with uncomfortable laughter. Some guests had confused expressions and exchanged glances with each other. Alex felt his face getting hot, but he maintained a calm expression. "But today is the day of my pride and joy, Michael," Sarah continued. "He graduated from a prestigious university with excellent grades, built a wonderful career, and today becomes a member of a wonderful family. I'm proud of him." As Sarah was about to put down the microphone, Michael stood up and said, "Mom, may I say something?" He went on stage and took the microphone from his mother. His face wore a malicious smile. "Everyone, you may have been surprised by my mother's words," Michael said. "But Mom, don't tease my brother too much. He might cry." Laughter spread through the venue again. Alex remained seated, quietly staring at his wine glass. "Actually, my brother has always helped me," Michael continued. "How dedicated he was. He would do anything so I could go to college, even give up his own dreams." Michael's words seemed to convey gratitude on the surface, but his tone had a subtle irony to it. "So today, I want to express my gratitude to my brother, because I'm here partly thanks to him." Michael looked at Alex. In his eyes dwelled an indescribable emotion, a complex feeling that mixed guilt and superiority. Alex slowly stood up. The venue's attention turned to him. He began walking toward the stage with slow steps. There was a strange dignity in his posture. Michael's expression clouded slightly. He hadn't expected such a reaction from his brother. Alex had always endured in silence, never fighting back. As Alex came on stage, Michael stepped back a bit. Alex took the microphone from his brother slowly while wearing a gentle smile. The venue fell completely silent. A look of anxiety appeared on Sarah's face. Alex held the microphone and looked around the entire venue. There were no tears in his eyes, only a quiet determination. "Now, let's begin the real celebration." His voice, though quiet, resonated throughout the venue. Alex stood motionless on stage. The atmosphere in the venue had completely changed, with the laughter from earlier completely gone. His silver-gray suit, illuminated by the stage lights, made it look as if he himself was glowing. Sarah tried to grab her son's shoulder, but Alex lightly evaded her. Michael watched his brother with an expression half filled with fear and half with curiosity. Alex brought the microphone to his lips and began speaking in a calm voice. "Today, I am truly delighted that my dear brother Michael has exchanged eternal vows with the person he loves." His voice contained no anger or sarcasm. It was a pure word of blessing. The tension in the venue eased a little. "As many of you know, our family has not walked an easy path. Since our father passed away, we have faced various difficulties." Alex took a deep breath. His eyes seemed to be gazing into the distance, as if looking at a screen projecting past memories. "When I was 16, my father suddenly disappeared from before us. He was taken by an enemy called cancer. At that time, our lives changed completely." Alex's voice trembled slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. "I dropped out of high school in my sophomore year. Many of you might think I simply wasn't suited for academics. Indeed, my mother believes so." He looked at Sarah. Sarah's face was beginning to turn red. "But the truth is, I quit school to support my family. After my father's death, my mother was plunged into deep grief and found it difficult to support the household. And my brother Michael still had a wonderful future ahead of him. I wanted him to have the best education." Alex slowly looked around the venue. Many guests were listening intently to his words. "I juggled 3 jobs, working at a cafe in the morning, cleaning offices in the afternoon, and manning a convenience store register at night. I slept about 4 hours a day." He smiled slightly. "Yet, I was never unhappy. Knowing that my salary could help my brother attend a top university and study law was enough to satisfy me. I was also able to pay for my mother's medical expenses." Sarah had now completely lost color in her face. She tried to mouth, "Stop it," to Alex, hoping Emily's parents wouldn't notice. "As my mother said earlier, I am indeed a high school dropout. I don't have children. I've never been divorced because I've never even been married." Alex laughed softly. Some laughs escaped from the venue as well. "But whether I'm a failure or not, I'll leave to your judgment. I myself am proud of my life." He paused here once and took a sip of water. "Actually, I have something to tell you all. The cost of this wonderful wedding today, I'm paying for it." The venue buzzed. Michael was frozen with his mouth open in surprise. "When I received a call from my brother telling me he was engaged, I was truly happy, because I sincerely wished for Michael's happiness. I wanted to help him realize the extravagant wedding he had dreamed of." Alex continued. "You all must be wondering, how could I, a high school dropout, afford such a thing?" He smiled a little. "Actually, I started an online business a few years ago. At first, it was a small accessory shop, but it gradually grew, and now we do business with Fortune 500 companies." Exclamations of surprise rose from the venue. "Some of you might know my company, Elite Innovation. We are known for our innovative designs and environmentally friendly manufacturing methods." From the corner of the venue, an elderly gentleman stood up. He commanded attention with his dignified appearance. "Mr. Alex Parker," the gentleman raised his voice, "you are the founder of Elite Innovation, the one who graced the cover of last month's business magazine." Alex calmly nodded. "Yes, that's right. You must be William Reynolds. It's an honor to meet you." The venue was filled with even more buzzing. William Reynolds, Emily's uncle, was known as one of the most influential businessmen in America. "I hear a lot about your company," William continued. "As a pioneer in sustainable fashion industry, you've become a role model for many young entrepreneurs. I believe your company's revenue exceeded $100 million last year." Alex smiled modestly. "We're still a growing company." The venue had now completely changed. People who had been looking at Alex with pitying eyes until moments ago were now regarding him with respect and amazement. Sarah had turned pale, almost collapsing into her chair. Michael just stood dumbfounded. Alex brought the microphone back to his lips. "I don't particularly want to talk about my success. Today is Michael and Emily's day." He turned toward the bride and groom. "I'm speaking here only because I wanted to convey one thing, the truth." He took a deep breath and looked around the entire venue. "The reason I dropped out of high school was for my family. The reason I worked 3 jobs was to give my brother the best education. And the reason I kept quiet about my success was..." He stumbled over his words a bit. "It was because I was torn between wanting to be acknowledged and not wanting to hurt my family." For the first time, tears welled up in Alex's eyes, but he didn't wipe them away, continuing to stand proudly. "I always loved my mother and brother. Even when they called me a failure, I didn't mind giving up my dreams for them, because I believe that's what family means." The venue was silent. Tears glistened in the eyes of many guests. But eventually, I realized that my own life was also worth living. So a few years ago, I left home and began to walk my own path, not relying on anyone, standing on my own 2 feet. Alex paused here and gazed at Michael. His eyes were filled with affection. "Michael, you are my precious brother. There hasn't been a day when I didn't wish for your happiness. Today, I sincerely congratulate you on your union with Emily." He looked at Emily. "Emily, I hear you are a wonderful person. Please make my brother happy." Finally, Alex looked around the entire venue. "Everyone, this is my story. The story of a failure high school dropout. But I have no regrets about my life, because that journey made me who I am today." From the corner of the venue, Quiet applause began. It quickly spread, and soon the entire venue was enveloped in loud applause. As the applause gradually quieted, a strange stillness spread throughout the venue. Alex put down the microphone and was about to leave the stage. At that moment, Sarah stood up and grabbed her son's arm. "Why?" Sarah's voice was trembling. "Why are you telling such lies? Who would believe that you've become so successful?" Her voice echoed throughout the venue, and the guests once again looked at the two with anxious expressions. Alex looked at his mother and answered in a calm, yet resolute tone. "Mom, I'm not lying. Whether you believe it or not, that's the truth." Sarah couldn't accept her son's words and shouted with a red face. "I raised you. I know everything about you. How could you, who couldn't even graduate high school, become the president of a large company?" The venue held its breath. William Reynolds stood up again and slowly walked toward Alex and Sarah. "Excuse me, Mrs. Sarah." His voice held authority. "What Alex is saying is fact. I do business directly with his company. Elite Innovation was selected as one of the top 10 fastest growing companies in Forbes magazine last year." Sarah was at a loss for words. Michael approached and looked at his brother. Complex emotions dwelled in his eyes. "Is it true?" Michael's voice was small. "You paid for this wedding?" Alex slowly nodded. "I just wanted you to be happy." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. "But He stumbled over his words. "We always treated you." "Even if I were a high school dropout failure," Alex quietly continued, "I loved my family. Michael, I gave up my dream so yours could come true. Still, I wish for your happiness." His words resonated throughout the entire venue. Tears glistened in the eyes of many guests. "I left home to reclaim my own life," Alex continued with emotion. "I wanted to succeed on my own, without relying on anyone. But today I learned your true feelings." A single tear streamed down Alex's face. "Even so, I don't resent you, because family is family." Sarah stood speechless, and Michael shook his head while crying. A heavy silence hung over the venue. At that moment, Emily stood up and walked to her groom's side. She placed her hand on Michael's shoulder and said, quietly, yet audibly to everyone, "What I've heard about your family and what I've seen today are completely different." Michael looked up at his wife's face. Fear dwelled in his eyes. "Emily, Quiet," Emily gently interrupted him. She turned to Alex and bowed deeply. "Mr. Alex, you are the one with true strength and love. I'm ashamed I didn't know until today." Michael's face turned blue at her words. He said in a trembling voice, "Emily, about us." "We'll talk later," Emily said coldly. Disappointment colored her eyes. Alex, trying to ease this tense situation, took the microphone again. "Everyone, today is not a day for sadness," he said gently. "Today is Michael's day. Let's celebrate his new beginning." He raised his wine glass. "To Michael and Emily's happy future." The venue was filled with quiet applause. However, this applause was different from before, filled with more respect. Michael's face flushed with embarrassment and guilt, his eyes downcast. For the rest of the ceremony, Sarah sat in a corner, hardly opening her mouth. The color of humiliation was on her face. The perfect family image she had always prided herself on had now crumbled. Michael stood by Emily's side, but there was an obvious tension between them. Though she behaved politely, there was a coldness in her gaze toward her husband. Alex was approached by many guests. Business talk, the secrets to his success, and his remarkable patience. He answered all questions humbly. The secret to success. Alex smiled in response to William's question. Honesty, patience, and perhaps a bit of luck. Not just luck, William said. "Your talent and passion have led you here." Toward the end of the reception, Alex sat quietly alone in a corner of the venue. He was reflecting on what had happened today, wrapped in complex emotions. "Alex?" Turning around, there stood Michael. His eyes were red from crying. "Is there something you want to say?" Alex asked quietly. Michael opened and closed his mouth as if searching for words. Finally, he said in a small voice, "I'm sorry." Alex stared at his brother. "Michael, I don't want you to apologize." "But I must," Michael said, tears flowing. "I've been a terrible brother. I never realized how much you sacrificed for us." Alex quietly stood up and took his brother's hand. "The past is the past. What matters is what we do from now on." The two brothers embraced for a long time. Outside the window, the spring sunshine brightly illuminated the city of London. It was the season of new beginnings. 1 year had passed since the wedding. From Alex's office window, the London skyline was visible. His company, Elite Innovation, had grown even more over the past year, now becoming a leader in the industry. He took a sip of coffee and reviewed the documents spread on his desk. It was a proposal for a new program to support young entrepreneurs. Alex wanted to use his experience to provide opportunities for young people from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. "Mr. Alex, your 2 o'clock interview has arrived." At his secretary's voice, Alex looked up and smiled. "Thank you. Please show them in." He stood by the window and gazed into the distance. This past year had been a year of great change for him. His relationship with Sarah seemed to improve temporarily after the wedding. His mother uttered words of apology to her son and showed signs of wanting to mend their relationship. However, it didn't last long. A few weeks later, Sarah began to ask for financial assistance. At first it was modest, but gradually her demands escalated. When Alex drew the line and refused assistance, his mother began to take a cold attitude again. Now Sarah was isolated even among her friends. She had lost her former status in society and continued to envy Alex's success. Occasionally she would say at local parties, "That's not my son." But no one believed her words. Meanwhile, Michael and Emily's married life was struggling. The truth revealed on their wedding day had created a deep rift in their relationship. Emily, knowing her husband's true nature, was disappointed in his spending habits and vanity. Michael desperately tried to salvage the relationship, but it wasn't easy to remove the mask of perfection he had built over the years. The two were now separated and on the brink of divorce. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of his office door opening. Turning around, there was an unexpected visitor. Michael. His brother was thinner than before, with a poor complexion. However, determination dwelled in his eyes. "May I come in?" Michael asked in a small voice. Alex invited his brother in. Michael seemed a bit overwhelmed by the luxury of the office, but quickly turned to his brother. "Emily and I are going to separate," he said quietly. Alex said nothing, just taking his brother's hand. "But that's probably a good thing," Michael continued. "I needed time to look at myself, to understand why I became this kind of person." For the first time, he uttered words of apology from his heart. "I now finally understand how much you sacrificed for the family. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know." Tears welled up in Alex's eyes. He quietly stood up and embraced his brother. "Michael, it's never too late to become a real family." The two brothers embraced for a long time. Outside the window, the spring sunshine brightly illuminated the city of London. It was the season of new beginnings.